Welcome to a special State Fair edition of The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell on location in Sedalia, Missouri at the Missouri State Fair. We kicked off today's festivities at the governor's ham breakfast, something of a political rite of passage for candidates seeking statewide office.
As governor, I want to make sure somebody's going to follow what we've built. We've built one heck of a foundation in this state.
Missouri Governor Mike Parson was breathing easy at this morning's governor's ham breakfast. After all, he's not facing the voters, not ever again. But the race to replace him is quickly becoming something of a referendum on his agenda.
So yeah, it's frustrating when a lot of people work our tail ends off for 5 years trying to get through some of the difficult times in this state. And sometimes people take cheap shots. But it's the political arena too. That's nothing new. But again, I think that tells a lot about the candidate when they can't run on their own issues and they're trying to run some of the things that they don't like. That doesn't say a whole lot.
I'm running to be the next governor of the state of Missouri. And I'm really struck by how frustrated Republicans are with the direction of the state.
If you're going to want to be the governor of the state of Missouri, tell me what you're going to do. Not how bad somebody else has done it or all this. Tell me what they're going to do to make the state better.
I think we're going in the right direction. Everybody, no matter if you're best friends with somebody or not, has fine-tuning of what they would do in an administration. I think Mike and his team have done a very good job.
Property taxes are out of control in this state. We ought to be having those kind of big red Republican victories here in the state of Missouri, but we're not, so we're missing the boat.
It's always good to be able to give Missourians their money back. Since I've been in the legislature and as Senate President, we've cut more taxes than any time in Missouri history, almost 20% now on income tax cuts. I would love to see more Missourians get their money back.
Another hot topic dividing candidates in this race, the issue of abortion and that question on the ballot in November of 24. Do you want to see the abortion question on the ballot in 24?
Do I want to see the abortion question on the ballot in 24? No.
There was an anti-abortion activist who was at an event in St. Louis not long ago, on camera said that the fiscal note maneuver was something of a shenanigan, a stall tactic to just give the pro-choice folks less time to pass petitions. Are there politics at play here, or do you want voters to actually weigh in on this issue?
Yeah, I'm just not familiar with that comment, but at the end of the day, like I said, I want the process to play out, and I want voters to have the most information possible.
But do you want voters to have that question before them on the ballot in 24?
Well, it's going to depend on whether or not the fiscal note and the ballot summary is in fact sufficient and legally adequate. And again, the process has got to play out.
So you're saying you don't want that question necessarily. You would like to see that question not on the ballot.
I mean, I am pro-life. I stand for life in the state of Missouri. I think the heartbeat bill that the General Assembly passed is the right policy position. But again, this is about enforcing the laws as written and going through the process that's built into the statute.
The court said you were clearly overstepping your power.
Yeah, and so we moved that process along, and now it's up to the new lawsuit to figure out if the fiscal note's adequate or not.
Did you know you were overstepping your power when you did that? Or?
No, certainly not. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I read that statute. It says that I have to approve as to content. The word content has to mean something, and I think that issue's still being litigated.
And because this is a program where we put public officials on the record about the important issues of our time, we asked them what was their favorite fair food.
Oh my gosh, it's the ribeye sandwich, for sure.
The deep fried Oreo is my favorite, but you gotta get it on your way out for the car ride home. You don't want to be walking around when it's typically 100 degrees after eating a deep fried Oreo. That's my favorite.
The turkey legs. No, absolutely. No, let me think. I'm gonna do another one. The funnel cakes.
Favorite fair food, funnel cakes.
Well, I go for funnel cake. I don't know, what do you think? Best fair food?
Funnel cake.
Yeah, we're going with funnel cake today.
Yeah.
Funnel cakes are good, man. It's just, when you're trying to shake hands and get to know people, and then you got powdered sugar all over your face. Not the best look all the time.
And more from the Illinois State Fair after this. Illinois Democrats hosted their largest political gathering of the year on Wednesday this week at Governor's Day at the Illinois State Fair, packing thousands of people into the Bank of Springfield Convention Center, then tearing off to the fairgrounds for all of those festivities there. That event has drawn the likes of former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, John Ossoff. President Joe Biden was scheduled to speak one year, actually just a few years back, until he had to be scratched out of the lineup at the last second and replaced by somebody few people knew at the time, a guy named Pete Buttigieg, who would later run for president. But in this political off year, 2023, few people were focused on races of the past. Many people at that big event or on the fairgrounds were looking ahead to see what Illinois' role might be in electing the next president of the United States. The biggest lines at the Illinois State Fair Wednesday weren't for corn dogs or kettle corn. Droves of Democrats turned out to see prominent politicians from the party in power on Governor's Day.
This is the best state fair in the entire country. Everybody go out and enjoy it.
Buzz is building for next year when Democrats from all across the country will come to Illinois to nominate their candidate for president. And if for some reason that's not Joe Biden, J.B. Pritzker would have home field advantage.
There's a reason why the DNC chose Chicago.
But first, the Republicans nominate their candidate in Milwaukee in July.
The leader of their party is Donald Trump. There's no way around that. He's not up by 5 points or 6 points, he's up by 30 or 40 points. And they have to answer for that.
We have a year and a half to go. Let's be honest about this. Things are going to change. I'm not sure what changes.
Governor J.B. Pritzker predicted one major change about the former president that would certainly throw a curveball into the race.
What he tried to do was to commit insurrection against this nation, and he's going to be convicted.
Many Democrats, Pritzker included, say they want Biden to run again. But with slumping poll numbers in his own party, we asked voters, what if they're backing the wrong horse? Congressman from Minnesota, Dean Phillips, said J.B. Pritzker should run for president. What do you think about that?
I think he should. He's good.
For president? You don't want Joe Biden?
For president.
Even right now in 2024?
Right.
So no more Biden?
No more Biden.
I disagree with that. Anytime a sitting president have someone run against him for a primary, that party lose.
I would like for him to leave Illinois, but I'd rather him not run the country.
If he performs as well as president as he has as governor, he'd be an excellent president. But he's supporting Joe Biden, and I am too.
You never know when opportunity or not. I think he'd be a great president.
In a pinch, could you be up for a job like that?
I'm for Joe Biden. I'm fighting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They're going to win in November of 2024.
And a quick check of our political headlines this week. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is in the Metro East on Thursday, fundraising alongside Congressman Mike Bost against his Republican primary challenger, Darren Bailey. Also, Missouri's Attorney General now taking action on the ongoing concerns of radioactive waste in our area. Andrew Bailey writing a letter he shared to Representative Kathy Rogers, the chairwoman on Congress's Committee on Energy and Commerce. In that letter, he calls for a congressional hearing on the contamination across North St. Louis County and supports Senator Josh Hawley's federal push to compensate victims in our area. And Governor Mike Parson making his way across the state for some ceremonial bill signings this week, stopping in Forestell Monday to sign a bill that would expand I-70. Nearly $3 billion set aside for that project. State officials hope it eases congestion along the busy interstate. And in Illinois, the assault weapons ban remains in effect after the state's Supreme Court upheld that law. Some debate surrounding the legality of the ban, the decision expected to be appealed all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Shortly after the state Supreme Court signed off on it, Governor J.B. Pritzker signed a new bill aimed at holding gun makers accountable. The Firearms Industry Responsibility Act would ban advertising guns to people under 18 and limits what images gun sellers can use in those ads. It would also allow people to sue gun makers. Illinois Republicans want to challenge that law. We check the record about the presidential election in 1968 when we come back.
What's the forecast in Florida?
No matter where you are.
What's the forecast in St. Peter's?
Or how you get your weather.
We know you want the forecast for your backyard. And you want it now.
Right here and right now.
The 5 on your side, Weather First team. Focused on you.
Before we go, we want to check the record, if you will. Governor J.B. Pritzker says he's backing Joe Biden for president in 2024. He says a statement from his political campaign says, quote, Joe Biden is the nominee. But he's not, technically. Not yet, anyways. No state has voted or held a caucus or a presidential primary just yet. Not one vote cast. And particularly when we look at the calendar, it's rather instructive against the light of the 1968 presidential election. It was November of 1967 when New York Senator and the youngest brother of a slain former president, Bobby Kennedy, said nearly the exact same thing on national television. Bobby Kennedy said on Face the Nation that November, quote, I expect that he's going to receive the nomination and I will support him. Speaking, of course, about the incumbent president, Democrat Lyndon Baines Johnson at the time. That was in November, a year before a presidential election. We're only in August now. Back in 1968, it was a 59-year-old President Lyndon Johnson who would announce the following March that he would not seek re-election. Bobby Kennedy entered that race days later. That does it for us this week. Thanks for joining us on this special State Fair edition of The Record. We'll see you again next week. Until then, we're off the record.